they'd first made it together when Ruth was a child. Even now, after all these years, Helen remembered the thrill she'd felt when her granddaughter was born. Oh, she loved her grandsons, but for a grandmother, there was something special about a girl. The doorbell chimed, and Helen peeked outside to see her dear friend Charlotte Rhodes standing on the porch. Delighted, she opened the door and quickly ushered Charlotte inside. They were both getting on in years, and Helen suspected neither of them had many Christmases left. She didn't have a fatalistic view of life by any means, but she was a practical woman. Helen knew what it was to face death. She had no fear of dying. "Merry Christmas," Charlotte said, unwrapping a hand-knit lace scarf from around her neck. Her friend was the most exquisite knitter. Many a time she'd assisted Helen with her knitting projects. She gave her the confidence to try new things. Why, with Charlotte's help a few years back, Helen had completed a complicated Fair Isle sweater. She still felt a bit of pride whenever she wore that sweater. She was a competent knitter in her own right. She didn't mean to discount her skills. But Charlotte had such an encouraging way about her, and not just when it came to knitting. Helen had confided in Charlotte about what had happened to her during the war, and Charlotte had urged her to share it with her family. Eventually, she had. "Merry Christmas," Helen said, taking Charlotte's coat and scarf and hanging them up. She led her friend into the kitchen. "This is such a pleasant surprise. I knew your granddaughter and her husband were stopping by, so I brought some of my green tomato mincemeat." She removed 2 beribboned jars from her ever-present knitting bag. "Oh, Charlotte, thank you." Helen accepted the jars and put them on the counter to admire. Charlotte was well aware that Helen had a weakness for her homemade green tomato mincemeat. "Consider this a small Christmas gift," Charlotte said, looking pleased at Helen's reaction. "Didn't you say it was too much work this year?" Helen could swear Charlotte had claimed she was finished with canning, and who could blame her? "I did say that, and then I took a look at all those green tomatoes and I couldn't help myself. Besides, Ben swears mincemeat is his favorite pie." "I thought your peach pie was his favorite." Charlotte actually blushed. Those two had been married for several years now, but they still behaved like newlyweds. It always made Helen smile. "Ben says that about all my pies." "Well, I'm very happy to get these. I'll make a pie for tonight's dessert." Helen automatically set the tea kettle on the burner, dropping tea bags in her best china pot. "What time is your granddaughter getting here?" Helen glanced at the kitchen clock. "Not for several hours. Around 5. Charlotte pulled out a chair and sat down, reaching into her voluminous bag for her knitting. Socks again. Charlotte was never without her knitting, and these days it was usually socks. Helen had recently made socks too, but not ones you'd wear. She'd knit both Ruth and Paul Christmas stockings to hang by the fireplace. Because of the intricate pattern, it had taken her the better part of 3 months. She planned to give them their made-with-love Christmas stockings when they exchanged gifts that evening. It wasn't long before the tea was ready, and the two of them sat across the table from each other, a plate of the gingerbread cookies between them. "I've met your granddaughter, haven't I?" Charlotte asked, picking up her teacup and frowning slightly. "Yes, don't you recall? Ruth certainly remembers you." "She does?" "It was a few years ago. She was in quite a state when she came by to visit. She was absolutely beside herself because she wasn't sure what to do about Paul." Charlotte looked confused. "That was shortly after they met," Helen explained, surprised her friend had apparently forgotten the episode, since Charlotte had answered Ruth's knock at the door. They'd been corresponding for a while. Paul was in the